There's a massive drop in feral hog population across the US, and the animal predator behind it will leave you speechless. Something was shifting in the brushlands, the kind of change you would not notice until the damage suddenly stopped. Fields that used to be ripped apart overnight were staying intact, and farmers who had grown used to waking up to destruction were beginning to see something unfamiliar: silence. The feral hogs that once moved like an unstoppable force across Texas and parts of Georgia were no longer showing up the way they used to, and no one could immediately explain why until this animal was spotted. For decades, these hogs had built a reputation as one of the most destructive invasive species in American history. Entire farming communities had been locked in a losing battle against them. Crops were destroyed, infrastructure was damaged, and the economic toll climbed into the billions each year. It had reached a point where the problem felt almost permanent, and the roots of that crisis stretched back more than 500 years. Feral hogs were never meant to exist in North America. The first pigs arrived during Spanish expeditions in the 1500s, released as a future food source. Over time, they escaped and adapted to the wild. The situation worsened in the early 1900s when Eurasian wild boars were introduced for sport hunting. These animals were more aggressive and resilient. When they mixed with the existing pigs, they created a hybrid that was stronger, smarter, and far more destructive. By 2024, the United States had about 6.9 million feral hogs, with Texas alone holding around 2.6 million. They spread across nearly every county, reproducing at a rate that made control efforts feel pointless. A single sow could produce multiple litters each year, each with up to a dozen piglets, allowing populations to double rapidly. Their behavior made things worse. They ate almost anything, from crops and roots to insects, eggs, and even young livestock. Farmers reported newborn calves and lambs being attacked. They could run up to 30 miles per hour, jump fences, and break through barriers. Their thick skin made them difficult to stop, even when hunted. The damage extended beyond farms. In places like Irving, hogs tore up lawns, golf courses, and even underground cables. In one incident, a group rushed onto a military runway, forcing flights to stop. Texas alone lost over $500 million each year, while nationwide damage reached about $3 billion. Traditional control methods failed to keep up. Traps, hunting dogs, and coordinated hunts only worked temporarily. The hogs adapted quickly, learning to avoid danger and returning smarter than before. Then something unexpected began to emerge. Around 2014, researchers noticed hog nests being disturbed and piglets disappearing at unusual rates. The tracks pointed to a surprising suspect: coyotes. At first, it seemed unlikely. Coyotes were much smaller and had never been seen as a serious threat. But trail cameras revealed the truth. Coyotes were not just scavenging, they were hunting. They approached nests from downwind to avoid detection. When a mother hog left briefly, they moved in. They worked in groups, with some acting as lookouts while others targeted piglets. The attacks were fast, often lasting only seconds. By the time the mother returned, the coyotes were gone. Studies confirmed this pattern. Piglet remains were found in a large number of coyote samples, showing consistent predation. In some areas, over 30% of piglets disappeared each season due to coyote activity. This began to affect hog populations. In parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Georgia, numbers declined by up to 20% without direct human action. What started as a subtle shift became a measurable change. At the same time, humans were still removing coyotes through bounty programs. In areas where coyote numbers dropped, hog populations surged again, sometimes tripling within a few years. This revealed a connection that had been overlooked. Coyotes were not just part of the ecosystem, they were controlling one of its biggest threats. Meanwhile, human strategies evolved. Smart trapping systems allowed farmers to capture entire groups at once. Helicopter hunts covered large areas quickly, and controlled toxin programs were introduced. Combined with coyote activity, these methods began to produce real results. Communities started coordinating efforts across counties, preventing hogs from simply relocating. In some regions, crop losses dropped sharply, and farmers began to regain control.